The power of vulnerability. So I really got to understand the power of vulnerability, that aha moment of how important it was about 20 some years ago. I remember being in a mother's group. My first time child going into a mother's group is quite daunting, but I wanted connection. I needed to feel connected to other mothers, and each time I went there, I would walk away in tears. I carried so much shame. I felt like I was the world's worst mother. All the other mothers were doing everything right. They looked perfect and their kids were reaching all the milestones before time. And I felt beyond unworthy. And I didn't say anything because I felt with all the shame, if somebody saw me, if somebody really saw me, I would not be worthy of connection. And that is the underpinning of shame, is that we feel we'll be disconnected. So Brene Brown, an unbelievable researcher, has delved into vulnerability to understand what its benefits are. And she researched two groups. There were two distinct groups that she found. The first group had a deep sense of love and belonging, and the second group really didn't. They felt unworthy of love and belonging. That was the difference. The first group felt they deserved it. The second group felt unworthy of it. So what did the first group have that the second group didn't have? Well, as it turns out, they had courage. They had the courage to be seen. They had the courage to be imperfect. The second one was compassion. They had the compassion for themselves, for their imperfections, and so they had compassion for anyone else that came into their radar, because you can only give what you have. And if you've got a hate in your heart, you give hate. If you've got compassion in your heart, you give compassion. You can't squeeze a lemon and expect an orange to come out. So they definitely have compassion. And third, they had connection. They had connection because they had this authenticity to show up as they are and not who they thought they should be. Whereas the other group, which was myself in the first scenario, carried so much shame. And the thing with shame is the more you have it and the more you don't talk about it, the more you have it. It's, if you had to do a experiment on shame and put it in a petri dish and put a thing over it, it will just grow and grow and grow. Whereas if you open it and it's exposed to oxygen, shame dissipates. So it's the intention to hold our shame, not to be seen, actually has a paradoxical effect. So people with shame, what they try to do is numb themselves. And here's the thing, you cannot, that same wall that keeps out disappointment is the same wall that keeps out happiness. Because we can't select what we're going to keep and what we're going to numb. We can't say joy, contentment, excitement, here, I want to keep you, but I want to get rid of disappointment and grief and despair. It doesn't work that way. If you numb one, you numb all. So that's what happens, and that's why we're living in a world of obesity and addiction and over-medication, is because we're trying so hard to numb. Whereas Brene Brown says the first group of people are wholehearted people. They lean into life, not as they want it to be or expect it to be, but as it is. And they see vulnerability as neither good nor bad, but necessary. So if we want to live with vulnerability, what we want to do is love wholeheartedly, even if there are no guarantees. We want to allow ourselves to be seen. We want to live in gratitude, even in the face of adversity, breathing through that conversation, waiting for the doctor to phone after a mammogram, or loving with no guarantees that this relationship's going to work. And if we can lean in wholeheartedly, that is the birthplace of joy and connection. So understand this, vulnerability is not a weakness. It is your greatest strength. Thank you so much for listening.